Hello, hi, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to another reading wrap up. We are going to be talking about all the books that I have read in the month of March. So without further ado, let's jump right into the video. I felt like my flow in reading in the month of March was quite slow. I don't know why. I just did not have the time to finish reading the book, or I just was not able to take time in my day to focus solely on reading for some reason. This month, I have only read 3 books, which I mean is still the average of the amount of books I read in a month. But in terms of the books that I wanted to complete, they weren't the books that I wanted to complete, if that makes sense. Let's do a recap of what was on my March TBR. The first book that was on my March TBR was Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros, and I did not get to that one, which is so unfortunate. I really wanted to get to that one, but there was just so many books I needed to get through first before reading that one. The second book that was on my March TBR was And Now Back to You by B.K. Borison. I am currently reading it, but as you can see, I did not finish it in the month of March. I mean, I guess that's okay, but at the same time, I wanted to finish it. And I'm not even halfway through the book. So that's saying something. And the third book that was on my March TBR was... oh dear, what was it? I don't even know what was the third book on my March TBR. Was it Under the Whispering Door? Anyway, I'll confirm what the third book is on the screen here, but of course, I did not get to that one either because I don't even remember what it was. So in terms of the books that I read in March for my March TBR, I read no books, which is so unfortunate. I think that was the only month that I wasn't even able to read one of the books on my TBR. I think I usually complete one, so March was not a good month in terms of that. But as you may have seen in my April TBR, that one is more realistic. And so fingers crossed that I can read at least 2 of those books. We are going on a tangent again. So without further ado, let's jump right into the books that I read in the month of March. Although I had 3 books on my March TBR, none of those books were read, but instead I have read 3 different books. So the first book I completed in the month of March is The Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson. This was a book that I borrowed from the library, and I also have a reading vlog on this. And the vlog is whether or not I can finish my library books before the due date. So I have given a pretty in-depth kind of setting and synopsis in that video, but for a quick synopsis for this video, we are following our female main protagonist, Princess Leia, as she is running away from an arranged marriage. And this arranged marriage is to make alliances between the Kingdom of Morgan, which is where she is from, and the Kingdom of Dalbrick. I don't think they are in good terms, but in order to be in good terms, they have this arranged marriage. That's where we're following. She runs away successfully with her lady-in-waiting, Pauline, and they run away to a small village where I believe Pauline grew up. I believe she was raised by her aunt, and her aunt lives in this little village of Terrabin. And they start working for Pauline's aunt as tavern maids. Now in comes our 2 male protagonists. One of them is the jilted prince who wanted to be the one to abandon the marriage first, but Princess Leia got to it first. And the other one is an assassin hired to kill Princess Leia. And this hired assassin is from another kingdom, which is the Kingdom of Venda. So we have these 2 male protagonists, so the jilted prince and this assassin hired to kill Princess Leia. One of them is Kaden, and the other one is Rafe. In the reading vlog, I kept calling Rafe Kafe or Calf, and I don't know why. And throughout that whole vlog, I've been just saying Calf when his name was Rafe. But I digress. So I found that this book was more so character driven than it is plot driven. We are trying to decide whether Princess Leia is falling for Kaden or Rafe. And it's kind of like a love triangle going on there. I would say it's pretty heavy on the romance. And I was trying to figure out whether Kaden or Rafe was the jilted prince or the assassin. I felt that that was what drove me to continue reading the book. I don't think I cared for the romance. And I was rooting for one romance, but then things changed when my thoughts of who Kaden and Rafe was. Once that changed, I was not rooting for anybody. I think I was still trying to transition to who I thought the jilted prince and who the assassin were. And by the last I think last third of the book or maybe last quarter of the book, I felt like it started to drag on. I also felt like there wasn't much politics in the book. It was more so the romance that was driving the plot too. While I was reading the book, I think by the midpoint, I wasn't sure if I wanted to continue on with the series. But when I read the last 50 pages of the book, I wanted to see what's going to happen in the second novel. And I feel like there's going to be more politics in there because, again, the first book is really trying to set up the story, and maybe the author was using the romance to really drive the story and try to engage the readers. For those that are starting off with fantasy and wants to dip their toes in fantasy, maybe this would be good because it is a romantasy, and I don't think there is a magic component in it. It's more so Regency with fantasy. I am curious to see what the second book has to offer, but I am also not eager to pick it up. I'm all good with just pushing it off until maybe when I want to pick it up. But for the time being, I have other books that I want to prioritize. I rated this book a 3.75 stars, mainly because I wanted a little bit more from the story. I think I wanted more of the politics in it. I feel like a broken record at this point, but a 3.75 star is a really good rating. So that is The Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson. The second book I've read is the first of this interconnected standalone series, and that is First Time Caller by B.K. Borison. I have And Now Back to You by B.K. Borison physically with me, and honestly, I think I have to return this soon. I mean, I am overdue, so I have to return this, and I do plan to return it in the next few days. So I do have the ebook on my Kobo, so I could continue from there. For the time being, let's put And Now Back to You by B.K. Borison as a placeholder for First Time Caller. First Time Caller is the first in the interconnected standalone series for the Heartstrings. I believe it's going to be a trilogy. So in First Time Caller, we are following Aiden, and he hosts this radio show called Heartstrings. And this is kind of a late night love advice radio show. So listeners can anonymously call in to get love advice. It's interesting because our main male character, Aiden, he is the one hosting this radio show, Heartstrings, and he actually does not believe in love anymore. He has fallen out of love, and he is giving these love advice to these anonymous callers. Now, one day he receives a call from a 13-year-old. I think she was 13 years old. 11 to 13 years old, so a teenager, and she's calling in for her mother because her mother has not been in a relationship ever since she was born. So it's been 11 to 13 years. Now, the mother is our female main protagonist, Lucy, and she is, I don't think she's really looking for love, but if she is looking for love, she wants that magic component in love. As you can imagine, Lucy and Aiden hits it off in this call that her teenage daughter kind of set up in a sense. They have this conversation going, and I feel like there were sparks flying, but at the same time, they weren't really in love with each other at that point. It wasn't an instant love, maybe infatuation, I would say, or just interested in talking to each other. So we'll stop there for the plot synopsis. Now, my thoughts on the book is that I was quite giddy when reading this book. B.K. Borison had this humorous writing and this dialogue and connection between her characters. One of my favorite characters has got to be Lucy's ex-husband. I just forgot his name, but he was such a character. I really enjoyed his character. He really put a big smile on my face. He is this dramatic, very vibrant character. He really brought this spunk into this story. And I really enjoyed another character, Jackson. I thought he was this nerdy, quirky character, and I really enjoyed his character. And he is the main character in And Now Back to You. And so far, I am loving this book. Although we're talking about First Time Caller, not And Now Back to You. Now, I think at a certain point in the story, I felt like I didn't get that giddy feeling anymore. It started feeling more tame, and I was able to put down the book. And I don't know if I was too invested in the romance between Lucy and Aiden. I was more so interested in Lucy's family. So Lucy is still in good terms with her ex-husband, and her ex-husband has a new husband, and they both live across from each other. They actually have family dinners every Wednesdays. I think it was every Wednesdays, but they have weekly family dinners, which is very cute as well. I felt like the book was very cute, very rom-commy, very wholesome. Now, on the other side of the story, we are following Aiden, and we are seeing him overcome an obstacle in his life, and we see why he has fallen out of love. In terms of the romance between Lucy and Aiden, I wasn't too invested in it, but because of all these side characters kind of pulling up the story, I was really invested in the story. I really enjoyed this book. This I gave a 4.25 stars, similar to Good Spirits, and I really enjoy B.K. Boris's writing. I definitely foresee myself finishing this interconnected standalone trilogy, and I am probably a quarter of the way through And Now Back to You. I think I might say that I enjoy And Now Back to You more than I do for First Time Caller. Maybe it's because of the character, because I love Jackson. We have to get back to First Time Caller. There's one more thing I do want to mention about First Time Caller. I really love the end of each chapter. In First Time Caller, B.K. Boris inserts this radio show kind of interview script in the end of each chapter, and I always look forward to reading the little inserts. I always find it very entertaining, very humorous, very quirky. I love that little insert at the end of each chapter. And for And Now Back to You by B.K. Borison, I think I can give you a better example of what I mean by using And Now Back to You. I'm going to go to the first chapter. So as you can see, there's a little TV, and then there's like one little line there, or maybe in this case, there's only one little line, and it's kind of like a little dialogue there. And I love these little scripts at the end of each chapter. It really immerses myself in the story. And in First Time Caller, it felt like I was listening to a radio show. And in this one, it felt like I was reading a news broadcast. The more I read the Heartstrings trilogy, the more I want to purchase the physical copy of the book. I can see myself rereading these books and just having a great time. So I would say these books are such a great time, and for First Time Caller, I gave that one a 4.25 stars. So that is First Time Caller by B.K. Borison, featuring And Now Back to You by B.K. Borison. I'm going to put that here. I really hope this is not misleading. Imagine this is First Time Caller. And now, finally, I finished a book that I was anticipating to finish for the longest time, and that is Finale by Stephanie Garber. I finally finished a series this year. Now, I can't really talk much about Finale because it is the final book in the trilogy. So actually, let's give a very brief synopsis of Caraval. So Caraval is this annual game where people come and participate in this game, and if you win, there is a prize. This is a really bad synopsis of the story. We are following Scarlett, and she really wants to attend Caraval because she wants to escape her abusive father. After many years, she finally gets an invitation to attend and participate the Caraval Games by our master legend who runs Caraval. Scarlett has 2 tickets to attend Caraval, and so Scarlett and her little sister Donatella, aka Tella, embarks to an island to attend Caraval. Now, they don't really get to the island together. So when Scarlett arrives at the island where Caraval is held, Tella was already supposed to be on this island. However, she goes missing. And the whole point of Caraval, at least in the first book, the whole point of the Caraval Games was to find her missing sister. And if she wins, her sister lives. That was the synopsis, a very poor explanation of the synopsis of Caraval. In the first book, we are following Scarlett. The second book, we are following Donatella. And now the third book is following both sisters. So I found that to be quite interesting. I found that the third book was definitely not as whimsical and magical as it was in the first book. I think I really liked that aspect of the story, which is why I rated Caraval the highest, because I felt like I was in that magical world and also participating in the games. By the third book, it is more grim, it is more dark, and we are discovering secrets about the sisters. I'm glad that it did not follow another Caraval game, because I think 2 was enough, in my opinion. I feel like this kind of reminded me of the Hunger Games trilogy, where the first 2 books was following the Hunger Games game itself, and then the third book took a different turn. So I felt that finale was that it took a different turn. So I did enjoy it a bit better than Legendary. And when we discovered some secrets behind the sisters, it was quite intriguing. I did not expect some of the things, although leading up to the reveal, I was able to connect the dots, but I would not have expected it if I was reading Legendary, let's say. The last page. I absolutely loved the last page of this book. I thought it was so cute and just kind of ties in the whole Caraval trilogy together. How the villain ends up was quite anticlimactic to me. I was hoping for more of a epic battle, but at the same time, this is not an epic fantasy, so I guess that makes sense. So I guess I'm okay with how the villain ended up. I did enjoy this slightly more than Legendary because it took that different turn. However, I still absolutely love the first book because it had that magical, whimsical element in the story and really transported me into the Caraval games. Whereas, I mean, because there's no Caraval games here, I guess it's more in depth of the characters that we see in here instead of the games itself. Amongst the 3 books, there is that common theme of whether it was worth it to gain that valuable information despite the consequences of gaining that information, because you're pretty much bargaining for that information. And I really enjoyed reading whether or not the sisters are going to suffer the consequences or give up that valuable information. I really enjoyed finale. I gave this a 4 stars. And in terms of the trilogy itself, I would give it a solid 4 stars. I really enjoyed this trilogy and I cannot wait to read Once Upon a Broken Heart because we are following Jax and Evangeline. I don't know who Evangeline is. I just hear it everywhere. Jax and Evangeline. I don't know who Evangeline is, so I'm excited to dive into the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy. And I have heard that most people enjoyed Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy more than Caraval. So if I really enjoyed Caraval, I can't imagine how I'm going to feel about Once Upon a Broken Heart. So that is my review on Finale by Stephanie Garber, featuring the trilogy as a whole. And those are the books that I have read in the month of March. Imagine and Now Back to You by BK Borson as first time caller, and Imagine the Kiss of Deception on this pile. That is my March reading wrap up. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know what was your favorite read in the month of March. I would love to know, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye.